Welcome to the Energy Diagnostics Podcast, only on Bold Brave TV. Join award-winning educator and sound healer Joy Adler and musician and teacher turned energy healer Dan Zavadil as they dive deep into the world of alternative healing, music, and sound therapy. With over 30 years of holistic health expertise, Joy brings wisdom and heart to every episode. And Dan, from the classroom and healing table to playing bass on the Today Show, he bridges rhythm and restoration. Tune in for inspirational conversations with masters in the field of transformation who share tools to empower your journey of self-discovery and wellness through music for healing. Good afternoon, evening almost here, Joy Adler. How are you doing today?
I could not be more excited to be here today, Dan.
This is so great. It's an absolutely gorgeous day here in upstate New York. It's one of those days where you know this weather is possible, and in the middle of winter, you get a little cranky because you know this is possible when these days come up. But
And you're
it's
like,
absolutely
wait a minute.
gorgeous out there.
What do you mean? It's sunny and it's Monday? Like, what's going on here, right? The whole weekend.
I'm all
But you know,
disoriented.
well, we have something very special today for our viewers, right? Why don't you tell them a little bit about what the heck we're doing, Dan?
Yeah. We have a lot happening. We have Tarik Shah. We had him on 2 weeks ago telling us about his story, master musician and educator himself, and his story and what he went through in the post 9/11 world, and how he's come out the other side. He shared some wonderful words of wisdom, and how he was able to move forth and really dig deep during his time when his freedoms were taken away, and what he's doing now. And we were fortunate enough to just meet him through a live music experience, some serendipitous happenings right here, right?
Serious serendipitous happenings. And then I find out that my friends have performed with him. They know him too. And then just the interconnectedness of it all was spectacular. It was such an interesting show. And we realized that we had just begun to scratch the surface on Energy Diagnostics Podcast, Bold Brave TV. So we said, hey, we need a part 2 with the incredible Tarik Shah, who will be coming on shortly. But wait, there's more, viewers. Stay tuned, because we left off. We watched an amazing trailer. We're going to play that for you again today, right? And there's a documentary on this phenomenon that happened to Tarik, and he has an immense amount of support, but he still faces hardships. And so we are going to really invite him to share about that, what it must have been like, right, to get the call from the renowned filmmaker, Barry Rubinow, who, by the way, as a nice little surprise, is going to be joining us in this hour to connect with Tarik, Dan, and I about his inspiration. We can't wait till they come on. But before we do anything, we would be remiss if we didn't play a little video about this master in our midst. Check out this video of Tarik Shah.
Yeah. I got to get some lessons from you, man.
Hey, man.
Oh, look out.
That was smoking. Totally smoking. We've got something else too to show them, but that was fantastic. Thank you for sending us that. Thank you for coming back, returning to Energy Diagnostics Podcast on Bold Brave TV, because we got a part 2. We weren't done with our conversation, were we?
Well, yeah, time went so fast,
It did. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And you're having a great conversation with people. It just clicks by, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's it. Oh, we got more. We have more to talk about.
What's the engineer's name? Just let me ask you that real quick, because I want to make a little funny joke about the size of my head in this picture.
Caleb.
My nieces, when they were 8 and 9 years old, they came to visit me when I was locked up in prison, right? And they said the funniest thing about my head, like I've always got called big head or water head or different things like that, all type of things that the family called you, right? And people in the neighborhood. But when Caleb made my head that big, it made me think about what my nieces said. They said the most ingenious thing about my head. They said, Uncle Tarik, you have a humongous cranium. So
nice.
Showing their homework.
Very technical.
It had me crack it up. I fell on the floor. I fell on the floor laughing after they said that.
We call that's our Seinfeld close talking thing that happens when they're trying to fit all of us on the screen. Right. The show begins to make a little bit more sense as a New Yorker. Tarik, we were just so curious. We're thrilled that Barry, the filmmaker of the great documentary on you as a subject. We don't want you to miss this, folks. Stay tuned on Bold Brave TV.
Autumn, a season of harvest, release, and renewal. This November 9th through 14th, step into the healing energy of the season at Kripalu, Center for Yoga and Health. Join Brennan Healing Science practitioner, graduate, and dean, Joy Adler, for this immersive and transformational Hands of Light retreat experience. Through lecture, guided meditations, and hands-on experience, awaken your innate ability to heal yourself and others. Savor the autumn glow, feeling balanced and aligned. Visit kripalu.org and reserve your spot today.
We are here with yet another master. We're having a continued conversation. We were asking Tarik Shah how it came about that Barry, did he contact you? Like, what happened for you when he decided that he wanted to make you the subject of a great film?
Well, you have to ask Barry that question because it all leads to my teacher, John Feeney, who I study with. He's a classical virtuoso bassist, principal bassist for the American Classical Orchestra and the St. Luke's Orchestra. And he plays with a lot of other groups. And Barry and him went to high school together. They're like very close friends. You should see them together. They're hilarious because they're like brothers, so Barry would know the real details of that. All I can tell you is that it definitely happened through John Feeney learning my story and then getting in touch with Barry. And then Barry getting in touch with me and them talking to me about it.
Because Barry was in LA. It isn't amazing the connections that are meant to happen and bring people together. We're going to be showing the trailer of your film soon, and then we'll bring Barry on because, of course, now we know what questions we have to ask our Barry. Tarik, we got so much beautiful feedback from people about the reel that we made with you sharing your wisdom at the end of our last episode. And I just want to share that with you. Just what is it that you would want to bring forward before we bring Barry on about your journey that you want to share with the audience?
Well, anything worth, let's say, accomplishing or getting, it takes a lot of hard work. So I am, let's say, building more discipline within myself to be able to move forward in the things that I really need to do. It's not just want to do. I'm not in the same financial situation that I was before the feds grabbed me and threw me in the federal gulag. It's had its own type of struggling difficulties to just get back into the business or even to think about, being, let's say, financially viable. And I know I'm not the only one struggling. I know that so many people are struggling. these days, and it takes that toil and that struggle and developing the discipline to be able to stay at it. And even when you don't want to motivate yourself, even when you don't want to, you're not going to feel the same way every day, or even in one day, you don't feel the same way from the time that you woke up till the lunchtime to the evening time. So your vibe goes up and down. Your level of faith goes up and down. It increases and decreases. It's just a matter of having the discipline to be able to push through, knowing that even baby steps makes big progress.
Yeah, it's the consistency of the effort, not necessarily how much you do, but the fact that you still put one foot in front of the other. Even on those days when you get up and you're like, oh man, the fight's pretty heavy today. We turn and we know I want to go there, right? That's the progress I want to make. And maybe I don't make as much progress today, but I still head in that direction. And it's that little consistency every day rather than pushing it off until tomorrow or the weekend or whatever it is.
Also stating, from what you're saying, Dan, also stating your goals in a more concise manner, because you can't do it all. Like you might have a paper full of a whole lot of things. No, you got to take care of one thing at a time and put them in a certain order, to get them really done and accomplished.
Yeah, find out what's the most important thing, right?
Yes.
You spoke about the humanity and acknowledging, our powerlessness at times, So when you talk about those human moments of being disheartened and yet relying upon your spirit to move forth, even in the midst of that, that's courage, even in the midst of losing faith for a moment. And I can imagine that's why you accomplished so much. I want to ask you a question because, my grandmother was jazz diva in New York City. I got to hear about playing with Dizzy Gillespie at 17. You were on a roll before you got stopped. And, he's coming back in, ladies and gentlemen, and sharing with us what it's like to try and move forward again after losing many years of one's freedom and life as a political prisoner. What was it like at that young age?
Well, it was a treat. And Dizzy was a great teacher of the music. And he was funny as all get up. So other than you're playing, let's say having to be to a certain level, playing with this great musician, I played one gig with him. And he didn't press me to do anything like that was really too far outside of what I could do other than to swing, which is what I could do. And that was at the time when I was studying with the great Slam Stewart that I got to play with Dizzy.
Okay.
After the concert, went back to Dizzy's hotel room to hang out with him. Dizzy got down on the floor on his belly, and he didn't have a little belly, and did like the Superman yoga pose. And Dizzy, I'm telling you, he was just hilarious. He was so good-natured, and he was a hilarious person and didn't mind sort of making himself, let's say, the butt end of a joke or to make you laugh.
I can just see it, right?
That's a story.
On the floor. It's so great to hear a story like that, and that so many masters that are out there and hear stories of people like yourself that have played with them. And the real masters out there, they teach and they just want you, whoever's around them, to be their best, play from your heart, and do your thing. Right? That's how they impart the wisdom of what they do. And it's so encouraging to hear that, right? I think of, Alice Cooper has had so many people in his band, and he brings that up. He feels like he's sort of the farm system for all these great players because they play with him, and then he just wants them to do their best. And when they get the call to a bigger gig or do their own thing, he wishes them well on their way. So it sounds like Dizzy was in that same camp of, he hears you swing. He's like, just come on, just play, man, just play and do your thing. And it's such a nurturing environment, and so great to be around people like that make you feel welcome because they want you to be you.
Yes. So I have to mention Betty Carter, from whom like you took some things and you're pointing to Dizzy, and sure, 100% Dizzy was that way. But Betty Carter, that was the school.
You know, you toured with her. How old were you when you began the tour with Betty Carter? And she was really quite a mentor for you that you were
Yes.
sharing about. So this is a nice bridge from part one.
Yeah, I was 21 years old. And I don't know if I tell that story last time of how I got the gig? Here's a really quick, I'll tell it as quick as possible. And I hope I don't speak too fast for those that don't like fast speakers. So in any case, there was a great bassist who was like my little brother, was Shawnette Moffett. And Shawnette Moffett was 16 years old at this particular time. And we were really close. I was 21. He calls me up. He says, Tarik, man, Cecil McBee with Joe Henderson, Al Foster, and Harold Mayburn are playing down at the Village Vanguard. So Shawnette lived in the Village, right? And so he said, let's go down. We want to check out Cecil, because both of him and I had a thing about Cecil. We were young and just too strong, too arrogant, just young dudes. I was 21, he was 16. He was still in high school. So we were supposed to be going down and checking out Cecil McBee to see if he was all of what people have built him up to be, because he wasn't either one of our favorite bassists. We've heard him on a lot of recordings, but he wasn't our favorite. So I went down there, listened to the whole show. Shawnette didn't show up until like after the show was over. He runs in the Village Vanguard and says, Tarik, Betty Carter's auditioning bass players over at Fat Tuesdays. So we run out the club. I hail a yellow cab. We both hop in the yellow cab. There's a line of bass players at Fat Tuesdays. They auditioned. Shawnette also auditioned for the band. I auditioned for the band. And Betty took everyone's number. I got the call. I won the audition.
Wow.
So that was in the very beginning of May 1984. I had just finished the semester at New York Institute of Technology for Architecture, Old Westbury campus in Long Island. I had just finished a semester there. But that was it for architecture school. When I got the gig with Betty, I was there.
The biggest education was on the road.
Yeah.
With the inimitable Betty Carter. And folks, we want to encourage you to go to TarikShahs.com. You've got to check out the website. It's fantastic, and it has amazing recordings with these masters. Tarik has a decades-long, 50 years of recording and performing. It's a treasure trove of his history as one of the jazz greats of America. So check those out. The other thing is that's so imperative is if you have an event that you want made special, if you have a fundraiser, you really want to get in touch with Tarik Shah to bring that special vibration and the intention for excellence to your event. We were just gifted and seeing Tarik Shah Trio in Schenectady at the famed
With Stella's Pasta Bar and Bistro.
Yeah.
Not for nothing, kicking food, really good food.
Yeah.
Tell your friend, it was great. And we really want to play that clip before we go to station break and bring in Barry, because we got to hear some more.
Yeah.
Let's see that really quick clip if we could.
Autumn, a season of harvest, release, and renewal. This November 9th through 14th, step into the healing energy of the season at Kripalu, Center for Yoga and Health. Join Brennan Healing Science practitioner, graduate, and dean, Joy Adler, for this immersive and transformational Hands of Light retreat experience. Through lecture, guided meditations, and hands-on experience, awaken your innate ability to heal yourself and others. Savor the autumn glow, feeling balanced and aligned. Visit kripalu.org and reserve your spot today.
Is it a crime to despise injustice? My name, Tarik Shah.
He started playing pretty young.
At the age of 17, I got to play with the great Dizzy Gillespie.
Played with Duke Ellington, Eddie Henderson, the great Abbey Lincoln,
Clinton's inaugural ball.
Betty Carter.
Betty, she said, look, study them, the great musician, but don't play like them.
It's instantaneously obvious that here is a master of this instrument.
There is a cross-pollination with music and martial arts. The offer was for me to teach martial arts to some brothers. I did not realize at that point that I had been their target since as far back as 2001.
If there's a 1% chance that they might attack us, we have to go after them first.
The government really wanted to get Tarik.
Yo, your man just got arrested. I'm like, excuse me?
So I knew something was very wrong.
They targeted Muslims. They were all terrorists, according to them, and we're going to prove it.
Tarik was in solitary confinement under really horrible conditions.
I was in there for 31 months.
What the government did to Tarik Shah, I think, was immoral.
That is torture.
You would actually go insane.
No one should suffer like that.
I didn't want the aspect of jail to change my character.
There's a contingent in the music world that's against him.
To have the reputation that you were in jail for some kind of terrorist act.
I have to be a leader and sort of stand alone in this and make my own way.
Hello, friend. Who did the trailer, Barry? It's so impactful. My goodness.
Me. I did all the editing. The main part of my career has been editing for over 40 years. And I've gotten into, I've always made films. I've always made my own films since junior high. Actually, I started in 8th grade. But professionally, I was an editor until recently, until, I started directing more the last 5, 6, 7 years or so. But yeah, I'm very comfortable editing. That's my sweet spot.
Well, obviously that's a strength because, it just blows you away. This incredible trailer. We can't wait to see the film. This is a big deal. This has just had its first debut to a standing ovation, from what I understand, for you and Tarik, 15 minutes at the New York State Writers Institute, right? Albany Film Festival at SUNY Albany. How did that feel, Tarik or Barry?
You go first, Barry.
It was fabulous. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know much about the festival, but it was packed room, and you could just tell, when you're in a theater, no matter what the film is, a short or a documentary or a feature, when people are really, really into it, you can just sense it. And it's like when people start getting bored, you can kind of tell, you can hear them shifting. And people were literally on the edge of their seat the whole way. And then when it finished, they just stood up and were really, really excited. And it was a real great moment. And like I mentioned earlier, they were clapping for me and for the film, but also for Tarik because he was there and, just his personal journey.
Now, I can imagine that this was a triumphant moment after immense trials and tribulations and challenges. Tarik, you shared on part 1 of Energy Diagnostics Podcast the impact to your career and being hired and things. If you want to share a little bit about that and what it meant to have the validation, the accolades at the film festival.
For me, a lot of people who were maybe on the fence or doubtful about some things, it cleared up a lot for people that had seen it, that were wondering. And then maybe some of them didn't want to come to me with certain questions personally. So it was informative for them in that sense. And like I said previously, a really good chance and opportunity for my narrative to be controlled more by me than the government, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the newspapers, and other things, which tended to lean more towards convicting me and making sure that I was, early on, and that's when people first Google my name, those are some of the first things that still come up now,
Can imagine that's just brutal, and Barry, obviously you can hear what a positive impact this has had in Tarik's life and will continue to as it gets out there more. Again, this was just revealed and there's more coming. Barry, what moved you to create this film?
There's one person not on this podcast who is very, very important to all this, and his name is John Feeney. He's a virtuoso classical bassist, and we've been very, very close friends since high school. We went to high school together in Glen Rock, New Jersey, and I guess even though I'm not a musician, I guess there's something about our artistic spirits or whatever that meshed, and we just became really close friends, and we still are. I mean, obviously, I've been in LA since 1978, a long time, but we always kept in touch, and I would try to see him when I would go back. So a couple of years ago, I get a call from John, and he goes, "I got to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I just met a guy, and I'm becoming friends with him, and he's got the most incredible story you've ever heard, and we have to make a film about him." And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's a lot in one sentence, but I'm open to hearing about it. And so he had met Tarik. Tarik had contacted John, which to me, now that I know more about, obviously now I know a lot more what's going on, but at that time I didn't. But the fact that Tarik on his own, first of all, Tarik is obviously an incredibly accomplished jazz bassist. I mean, we've all heard about who he's played with in his career. And so for him at this stage of his career to seek out the best that are there, the best that there are, to improve himself says a lot about him, and says a lot. Especially John is not even a jazz player, but they just hit it off. And I guess they're really just kindred spirits. And I he worked with John, I guess more specifically like with Boeing and things like that. But, I think just the two of them had so much in common that it's been a great relationship. So next time I went back east, we arranged for Tarik to come down to John's house, and we met and spent some time together. And then we started having Zoom calls, the three of us, fleshing out his story. And obviously I was amazed at his story. It's incredible what he's been through and how he's overcome it. Because to be honest, I was a little wary at first, not because of anything specifically with Tarik, but I had just finished this other film. I wasn't really ready to start something else. But in any case, it all worked out. So I said, well, let's go up and shoot Tarik's interview, and we'll shoot him playing. And we shot him playing at the club in Troy, and it went great. And then, we shot on the farm. And then a few months later, I came back east again. We shot in the Albany area. The lawyers who know Tarik and know the story and gave a lot of great background in the film. And then the next day we drove down to Brooklyn and interviewed some of his friends, and they were all just fantastic. I mean, you've talked about Joy, how, some things are just faded. Well, I mean, I couldn't believe it. Usually, when you're making a documentary, there's most of the interviews you hope will be good, but you never expect all of them to be they were just all great. I mean, they obviously all loved Tarik and gave great insight into his story. So that's in a nutshell how it happened.
Well, that's pretty fascinating how it all came together in your filming schedule. And listen, you're a master filmmaker. The shots that we see in the trailer, your editing, like what it seems to me that what I'm hearing is there's so much positive intention, passion, good heart, and goodwill on behalf of Tarik and getting his story out, from everyone interviewed, everyone participating in this, and of course, you making this film. I loved hearing about the lifelong bond and the trust with John Feeney. So if John says, hey, listen, we got to have this conversation, we got to talk about, and doing something for Tarik, you were like, yep, no problem, let's meet. And you made that time and space, that implicit trust, and that's when the magic happens. Dan, did you want to share something about that?
It's really fascinating to look. I'm sure you get a lot of ideas coming at you, right, in the creative field like that, and just kind of reiterate what Joy had said, to have the trust of someone who. It's so great when we have connections like that. Like you said, you've been in LA since the late 70s, but you can come back and pick up with somebody, and it's like you just saw them yesterday. And that's when we know we have somebody that we are connected to, even like you said, even if it's not the same, we're not in the same world, but we're doing our creative things together. And he brings you this story and you're like, this Tarik, I know some folks I play with that have played with Tarik as well. And he's one of those guys where everybody just has nothing but positive things to say about Tarik. So it's to meet him in such a serendipitous way as we did over after our time at Kripalu, and just get together and meet this guy. And here we are 2 months later, having these great conversations and really shining a light on this, bringing this forward. And hopefully it continues to grow and the message can get out there that these things do happen and we have to make it known.
We're really looking forward. There's a lot of things to look forward to with this film. And I want to just remind our viewers that you want to go to TarikShah.com and also /teacher. He's a master educator. And if you want to improve and if you want to learn from a master with patience, heart, and positive intent, he's your guy, And we also have the world-renowned filmmaker, Barry Rubinow. .com. Hello. Gotta check out. Gosh, I love reading about a life well lived. Dan and I were really amazed doing a deep dive in your site and your material, Barry, but we gotta ask, Dan and I, we're so curious, like, what is your longing for this documentary? What is it that you see for this?
Great question. I see this as a very extremely inspiring story. Everybody goes through ups and downs, bad days, bad weeks, bad years. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has a cross to bear, but not too many people have had to go through what Tarik had to go through. And for him to come out of it, like Wendy Oxenhorn says in the film, she says, it's one of the most beautiful lines in the film. She goes, here he goes through 2.5 years of solitary confinement, not seeing the sun in a tiny little cell. I mean, that's something, it's hard to get your head around that. But in any case, to go through 2.5 years of that and then another 12 years of jail and come out. And she said, he got through it by making himself a better person. He's not bitter. He's not spitting at the world, how angry he is. He's a better person. And that to me is the inspiring part of the story. And that's what I would hope people would get out of it, that no matter what you're going through, you can get through it.
I said to Tarik in part 1 that my eyes couldn't take in. It's amazing the filter we have on perception, Barry, really. I kept reading 31 days. But it wasn't 31 days. It was 31 months in solitary confinement. And I loved how you capture that in the trailer too. The average person would go insane. And we talked about the discipline of being a professor of martial arts and jiu-jitsu, being able to support you as well as your faith, Tarik, in those dark nights. This is a film that needs to be seen because it's inspiring the resiliency of your remarkable spirit. And as a human being, you think we all have challenges, right? We all have our cross to bear, Barry. That was a great point. And you want to wake up and sit up and stand up and move forward. This is the film that is going to help you to find it within you, because when you see what Tarik went through and you imagine your own life, it can inspire you to triumph from out of trauma similarly and in your own unique way. Tarik, what do you want to say to that?
First, I have no magical thing to say other than it's an ongoing work. It's an ongoing task. And sometimes as human beings, we don't realize how important self-indictment is. But even in that self-indictment, if you want to have good character with other people, you first have to have good character with yourself. So not to be so rough on yourself. You can see the things, acknowledge them, see what's real or things that you really want to work on. Then you have to work on them. Like I always use for years with my students, I say you have to build a habit because habits are the hardest things to break. Like for instance, if there's a very stingy man, very tight-fisted man who really wants to be magnanimous and charitable, then what he has to do is he has to go opposite to his stinginess and his tight-fistedness for an extended period of time in order to develop the habit of being magnanimous. Then it won't leave him so quickly. Him or her won't leave them so quickly because habits are the hardest things to break. Yeah. So throughout life, in our sense of what is real success, it's not necessarily financial success. Why do we know that? Because we see so many people throughout history who have been successful in the media, successful in their art, becoming famous, and really successful with a lot of money, and they've taken their own lives. And I'm not making small of that. They've taken their own lives. So that should be enough proof for us that that's not the real success, that the real success is looking at oneself and working on developing virtuous character, becoming a better human being. That's really the success. Understanding what your place is in assisting humanity and being the caretaker of this earth. That's the real success.
Well said. Dan.
Don't ask me to follow up on that one.
I don't want to say, no, it's like, who's going to follow up on that? Nobody.
I'm going to say, man, I think I want one of them bases on your wall, man. You did?
Just
I'll bring him down. We'll get together.
Yes, we got to. We have to.
For sure. This is such a beautiful moment. But we're going to make sure that gets out there to be the caretaker for this earth, because that is so much bigger than we are. And to have that outlook, and for you, as you said earlier, to have that progress, that one step at a time, do that thing. We're doing something so small in our everyday, but it's sending out those ripples across, and we don't know who that's going to get to and what that smile, that brightness in our personality that day, our character that we've developed, that we carry with us to the post office when we greet our dog or our cat, and what that is going to do. There are so many things that we do that affect others, and we will never know. So for you to remind us to, man, just get up and do the best you can today, and take those steps forward, develop those habits, is really just, I mean, period, stop, end of sentence. That's where it is. Mic drop. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, listen, we're coming to the end of our show.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Dan. And, I just feel so blessed to have this time with you both. Viewers, Barry jumped on just a couple of hours ago from LA. He's like, what time is that Eastern Standard? Okay, let me sync up. And he's there.
Right.
Like, that's synchronicity. When you're in alignment with your path, look for those breadcrumbs. So, things just open up. Synchronicity. When you are really living your best life, doing your best, which is what Tarik Shah does each and every day. TarikShah.com. And you want to check out that trailer. We're going to add it in the notes Please subscribe to Bold Brave TV for wonderful content like this from the masters themselves. Thank you so much for being here on Energy Diagnostics Podcast on Bold Brave TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
We want to thank our guest today for joining Dan and I on Energy Diagnostics Podcast on Bold Brave TV. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of these life-changing and transformative episodes. We'll see you soon.